Do 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 do. Do. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Here I am. Here I am. Hello. Welcome back. Welcome back. My new short film, Nowhere to Go, is out now. You can go to my main page and see it. I'll link it here. We had a big premiere last Thursday, May 22nd. If you like my critiques, if you like my work, I think you're going to like this. It's 8 minutes. Give it a try. And if it resonates with you and you have $200,000, give me a call. Today I want to talk about the entire season 2 of The Last of Us. I try to make some episodic videos, but I found myself a little confused as to where this creative team was going. I kind of wanted to wait till the end of the season to really put my voice onto what I think they did well and what they need work on. And when they were talking about this, I was really excited about the possibility of seeing a different iteration of this story. I have played this game. I love this game. I've played it multiple times. From here on out, I'm going to try to separate the game from the season. There's going to be a section where I'm going to talk about the game, but for now, I want to talk about this just as a piece of television. And before I do that, we're going to do another menu, and we are going to do CW allegations, pulling punches, unnecessary changes, and a full story. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Aaron Murray Vasquez. I'm a filmmaker here in New York City who just released a new short film, Nowhere to Go. Click on it. Let's get started. So there's a lot of things on the subreddit, the Last of Us subreddit, I peruse, shout out, that have been calling this like a CW show, a Disney Plus show. I kind of agree, but just the tonal shifts of this wildly serious property. You know, this is a zombie show. This is a post-apocalyptic show. There is a lot of darkness, but then there's also really sharp cuts of levity, lots of jokes, lots of over-exposition, lots of detours that sort of feel as if like the episode of The Flash on CW, where they have 18 episodes and they can really flesh it out, and this story is just about this. We don't have that. We have a small amount of episodes, and every second counts. There is some like back and forth. I don't want the show to be so sad, but there is some wild tone shifts in terms of how dark the world is, and then we just cut back into jokes, you know. I think there may have been times where 20 words were used to say what 5 words could have said. Okay, next section, pulling punches. The opening thing we see with Ellie is her and this, brute of a man going toe to toe. And at the end of this spar, she talks about pulling punches. And she says,
"Don't do that again."
I was really excited because I thought that this was going to signal to the audience, we are not going to be pulling punches here. All of this darkness, all of this dread, all of this fear, all of this anger, all of this rage, we are going to lean into that. It pulls a lot of punches. There are very different changes to animals, to people, to the fates of those people, the journey that Ellie takes, the amount of time. All of those things, in my opinion, are meant to sort of soften what was going to be the reception of this show. A lot of people might say, hey, it's Sunday night. I don't really want to watch this after The White Lotus. I get that. Me too. I didn't watch this on Sunday night. I watched it on Monday morning. It's not like that's not successful. I mean, Game of Thrones had a legendary run, but because people trusted the showrunners, trusted where the story was going to go, liked the actors, and, trusted where they were going to go once those actors were killed, the audience stayed with them. And I understand that too. I don't want to write roles that are going to make people target them for portraying a character. At the same time, if you're going to do a film like Apocalypse Now and adapt it, it's going to be a bit of a strange thing if you don't get that heart of darkness. It's going to be a strange thing if it doesn't get to that kind of like insanity at some point. Unnecessary changes. Part 1 of this story is unequivocally, without a doubt, a revenge story. There's no other way to structure how we are meant to feel for this character. With the television show, it doesn't want to be a revenge show. It wants to tell a greater story, but at the heart of it, it's inciting incident and its journey both are a function of a revenge story. So it's hard to reverse engineer what it is Craig Mazin really wants to say for something that is already there and is saying something. We're going to get to a very big change of what I'm talking about later. But Dina being with Joel instead of Tommy, 3 months passing instead of several days, the council, a lot of this stuff really lets air out of the tires of a revenge story. And I wouldn't mind it, but when it comes to a revenge story, there has to be a lot of momentum. To bounce around and try to tell a bigger story, we lose a lot of momentum, we lose a lot of focus, and we lose our connection with that character's intensity towards getting to that goal. And then one more. Tell a full story. The Last of Us Part 2, the game, had the luxury of telling the entire story. They knew the players were going to play the first half, play the second half, play the epilogue, play the second epilogue, and get to the finale. They trusted the players were going to do that, and so they told that story. Season 2 of The Last of Us does not have that luxury. It needs to tell a complete story without knowing what happens in Season 3. This season needed to have an ending that said something that didn't lean on Season 3 for resolution. Look, I don't want to talk about Marvel, but the Part 1, the Infinity War thing, that was a full story. The second part, that was also its own story. And to me, as a creator, you've got to create a satisfying beginning, middle, and end. You are asking audiences to tune in, and it's nice that you've added this grand zombie fight. This story is intimate. This story is close. It is visceral. It is like the goosebumps on your skin. Zooming out really takes all of that intensity off the table. And I'm going to talk about the changes I would make to this season, episode by episode. Before I talk about what changes I would make, I'd actually want to talk about the importance of being in clubs, because I've been in this writing club for about 3 months now, maybe longer. I swear this isn't an ad. If you look at like articles, you will see like historic levels of loneliness, historic levels of emptiness, people having less friends, people having less things to do. I joined this writing club. It's gotten me kind of out of my house. It's gotten me meeting with people. I get to read people's stuff. I get to contribute with people's stuff. Being in clubs has helped me a lot with my own loneliness, my own depression, my own self-esteem. Whether or not I'm a good writer or not, that's not really the point of these clubs. The point of these clubs for me is to interact with more people, is to engage with more people, to connect, to bond over things like sports and the weather and what we're going to do next. And then we get into what it is we want to talk about while we're clubbed up. I would say I wouldn't join anything first that asks for your money. I would say that if you're not in a club, I would recommend seeking it out what it is you want to do. If you want to paint, if you want to design, learn how to woodwork, learn how to skate, learn how to cut hair. I mean, that's probably more of a class. That's probably more school at that point. A book club, a movie club, a music club. Finding out what it is that you love to do or interested in doing or interested in growing, that's the first part. And then the hardest part is to ask for suggestions. Put yourself out there. Put it out to your friends and your network. Be okay with putting yourself out there. Be okay with being bad at what it is you want to be good at. Being bad forever. But be excited at the possibility of becoming better every time you go. Be excited to contribute. For me, that's what this club has meant a lot for. Not just me helping myself, but helping others and connecting with others and adding the spice that I can to somebody else's work and seeing if it works. Clubs are fun. Join a club. Okay. Back to the show. We're going to call this section Too Much and Not Enough. What do I mean by that? This season had too much of what I think matters in season 3 and not enough of what matters in season 2. This, to me, is supposed to be a very small story. Blinders on. Ellie is supposed to have blinders on. And a lot of the mystery has been removed from it. I said in the first video that I didn't really love that they introduced Abby first. I gotta say, I didn't like that start. I'd rather you not know who Abby is and her motivations, instead of just giving us exactly what she's thinking, exactly what she's feeling, exactly who she is, who her father was, where they're from, what's happening. Like all of that stuff in the first 3 minutes kind of really cuts the legs out from the intended story. When she does what she does to Joel, she tells him exactly why. In the season finale, Ellie knows exactly why and tells Dina the whole thing. It's so useful for season 3 to reframe everything that we saw in season 2 that I don't really understand why it's in there in the first place. So we're going to get rid of that. We're only going to see Abby in the times that she interacts with our main cast. So when she arrives in Jackson, and then at the very end when she arrives at the theater. I want the feeling that we are kind of always nipping on Abby's heels. She's always just one place away. She's always just one thing on the run. I also wanted to introduce more of the mystery of the Seattle crew. Every episode we get to a member of her clan, have it make it feel like Abby's aware that Ellie's after her and that she's on the run. What's the B plot, you might ask? Zero B plot. Well, how's that going to be interesting? It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of stuff that happens in these 3 days where you don't got to go anywhere else. But I'll give you something. I will give you the entirety of the episode where it's just all Joel flashbacks. We're going to break that up. And we're going to give you a flashback intro every episode. So that if I'm a Max executive, HBO Max executive, I'm getting Pedro Pascal throughout the entirety of the season. Boom, there you go. You tune in for him every week to being a lovable dad. And 2, these scenes would motivate what we're about to see. When we see all of these important moments all at once, we lose that focus of why it is we're doing these things. So here's the structure, okay? We are starting with the Jackson episode, where we kind of reintroduce the world, reintroduce the issues, yada yada. Ellie, Joel, something's up. Episode 2, the death of a character that I'm going to say right now. 3, 2, 1, Joel's death. That's the whole episode. Episode 3, the mourning, grieving period is the intro. We're not spending an entire episode on that. I get it. You want some of that, but we've got to be on Abby's heels. Ain't no 3 months, ain't no council. We're off to Seattle. In fact, Tommy's already beat us, so we're a step behind. We've played out all of what happens at Seattle Day 1 day. At the end of episode 3, we find that Tommy has sort of paved a path for us. We lose Shimmer. We gotta lose Shimmer. I'm sorry. We have to do it. There's a cost. There's a cost to all of these things, and Shimmer's gotta go. I'm introducing Jordan. Jordan's going. Another thing, I need these titles. Seattle Day 1, they got to be big, bold, they got to be present. It's got to be a big visual thing that we are all aware of constantly in every episode. Episode 4, Seattle Day 1 Night. That's the whole episode. Ellie falls asleep at the end of episode 4. Episode 5 starts with the finding of strings scene. We're adding that back in. We're adding all of the flashbacks from the game in. So the intro begins with the finding of the strings scene. They find a couple who turned. We go into the intro sequence. Ellie wakes up from the night. Seattle Day 2. And I think Seattle Day 2, the day portion, is going to be an entire episode of just Ellie by herself. I'd like to explore the loneliness that Ellie is going out there on her own. There's plenty to see. There's plenty to do. There's plenty to find. We can be a standalone Ellie episode, but we need to see her competence. We need to see her survival. We need to see her rage. And we need to see how things go down. And so we end with Seattle Day 2. We have not yet found Nora. Episode 6, Seattle Day 2 Night. This intro begins with the birthday gift scene. And maybe it's a long intro. We go maybe 15 minutes, then the intro starts. We get to the Nora section of the show. That's where we end it. Episode 7, Seattle Day 3 Day. We start that with the St. Mary's Hospital reveal. Or maybe we do a long intro there of the Eugene stuff. Either way, but I do want that confrontation to come in episode 7. We leave it where Ellie and Jesse break off for Tommy. And then we end on episode 8, Seattle Day 3 Night, where everything comes to a head and we wrap all of the things we've lost and the things that we are putting at risk. We close all that up after we've killed everybody but Abby, and we say, off you go, back to Jackson. By the time we get to the theater and we're all kind of settling in and getting ready to go, those main themes should be closed. And then tragedy strikes. So that's how I would write it, but committing to a full theme and have it be laser focused on revenge. I don't need a scene of Isaac at all in this season. I love Jeffrey Wright. I want more of him, but not at the expense of cutting his character's importance. But maybe it'll happen in season 3. Who knows? Anyways, that's my rewrite. I'd be a laser focused show. I don't want to focus too much on moving out of Ellie's perspective. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of that rewrite. We're going to keep going in the final section I have, which is called In Defense Of. And if you're not interested in hearing somebody talk about video games, you can skip it. I understand. Where we're going to have another new menu right here. Here we go. In Defense Of Game Ellie, Bella, Game Abby, and Part 2's Darkness. Let's start with Game Ellie. Game Ellie is so much more competent than the show Ellie, and that's not Bella Ramsey's fault. Game Ellie has been taught by Joel for years, and by the time we get to see Ellie is proficient at so many things. And in the show, we don't really get any of that. In the show, we get that she's not studious, not talented, not intelligent, doesn't have good instincts, doesn't have good survival skills, constantly getting bit, constantly getting the drop on. God. And that's kind of where a lot of the critiques have been building up, of being like, this character is so talented. They grew up in a militarized school. They were taught by one of the great scavengers in America. One of the great scavengers of America taught her. She was brought into another community that taught her how to fight, how to heal, hunt, how to spot infected, how to spot raiders. She's she is born of this world and is a brilliant, sharp tool. The show doesn't treat her like that. And to me, that was really disappointing, because I felt like, and we're going to go into the defense of Bella, I know Bella can do that. They are a very talented actor. The creators of this season saw Ellie as an infant. And she's very much not an infant. She's almost exclusively anti-infant in the game. Craig Mazin just says that he doesn't care about certain things, and it shows. It shows he doesn't care about certain things. Bella is great. They're fantastic. That's not what I'm saying. They put in so much respect on Joel, and to me, that's the level of respect they should have put on Ellie. They should have put that much respect on Ellie, because she is Joel's child. She has been raised by Joel. You want to respect Joel, you should respect Ellie. Bella can do that. So the next one we're doing is In Defense of Game Abby. When Game Abby came out, I'm just going to call her Abby for now. When Abby came out, she had a very unique body type, not often represented in media. She was a broad, strong woman, almost like a bodybuilder, almost like a wrestler. That led to a lot of, anti-trans bullshit, which, fuck that. And it was exciting to see this character, who looks so different, feels so different, sounds so different, be a main antagonist in a video game. And when we meet her, she is at the pinnacle of her journey. She completes her goal. She didn't feel how she thought it would feel, but she did it. And people may ask, okay, she's got this big body, so what? She's got this long ponytail, so what? Abby's muscles and her hair are very, very important into her character's development. When we meet Abby, she's just as scrawny. She's as scrawny as Ellie. But because what happened to her father, and she had all this time off to train, she morphed her body into a gigantic killing machine. It's very similar to in Moonlight, going from chapter 2 Chiron to chapter 3 Black, how his body changed. Over the years, Abby's body changed as a physical representation of her goals. The muscles feel like a physical representation of tragedy, and she's using her tragedy and her trauma to survive. And her hair changes, going from a little ponytail when we first meet her to a long ponytail. Those to me are two very fascinating parts of a physical representation of growth. And the show takes them away. The show doesn't replace them with anything interesting either. They just take them away. All right, bro, what are you gonna give me though that is as tight as that? I'm going on and on here. I got to figure out a way to land this plane. I'm not a big fan of how they told the story. I'm not a big fan of how they softened the story. I'm not a big fan of how it's an incomplete story. I'm not a big fan of how they disrespected some of the characters' abilities and disrespected some of the characters' representation. I think this season was a big disappointment creatively. This creative team had an opportunity to tell a brave story, and they chickened out. They chickened out. Anyways, please watch my short film. Tell me if you like it. I just want to say thanks again for following me down this path. Thanks if you clicked on the video. I'd appreciate a like, a subscribe. If you want to see more of my videos, I go into deep dives of film. I go into deep dives of The White Lotus. I talk about my journey in making films. And so get excited, because next week, or maybe in the next 2 weeks, we're going to do Nowhere to Go, the review. How fun. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.